Admiral Quan Ho stood on the bridge of his massive warship, looking out at the stars through the huge viewing window. His ship, the Subjugator's Pride, was one of the most powerful vessels in the Valtech Empire's fleet. It was 3 kilometers long and carried enough weapons to destroy entire planets. The Valtech Empire ruled over 10,000 star systems. For 2,000 years, they had been the strongest force in the galaxy. No one could stand against their mighty fleets. Every alien race they met either joined them willingly or was crushed beneath their ships. Today, Quan Ho was patrolling the outer edge of Empire space near the Zarion system. This was a contested area where rebels sometimes tried to hide. His job was to find them and destroy them before they could cause trouble. "Admiral," called out Hana from her position at the communications station. She was young for a fleet officer, but she had proven herself reliable in many battles. "I'm picking up something strange on the long-range sensors." Quan Ho walked over to her station. The screen showed a small blip moving between the asteroids near Zirion's 4th moon. "What kind of signature is it giving off?" Hana frowned as she studied the readings. "That's the strange part, sir. I've never seen anything like it. The ship appears to be very small, maybe only 200 meters long, but the energy pattern doesn't match any known propulsion system." Captain Dong Min, Quan Ho's most trusted advisor, joined them at the sensor station. He had fought in dozens of battles and knew every type of ship that flew in Imperial space. "Could it be a new rebel design?" "Impossible," Quan Ho replied. "The rebels don't have the technology to build anything we don't recognize. Show me the visual." The main screen changed to show a fuzzy image of a sleek, dark ship. It was unlike anything in the Imperial database. The hull had smooth curves instead of the angular designs that most species preferred. There were no visible weapons ports or engine outlets. "Try to get a better scan," Quan Ho ordered. As if the unknown ship had heard him, it suddenly changed direction and moved directly toward their fleet. The movement was impossibly smooth and fast. No ship should be able to accelerate that quickly without crushing its crew. "Sir, it's heading straight for us," Dongmin said, his voice tight with concern. "All ships, battle stations," Quan Ho commanded. Red lights began flashing throughout the bridge as the crew prepared for combat. "Target that vessel." But before his weapons could lock on, something incredible happened. The unknown ship passed directly between 2 of his escort vessels, moving so fast it appeared as just a blur on the sensors. It was scanning them. Quan Ho felt a chill run down his spine. In all his years of service, no enemy had ever been bold enough to fly through the middle of an Imperial fleet. The rebels always ran when they saw Imperial ships. This vessel seemed to have no fear at all. "Hana, try to contact them," he ordered. She opened all communication channels and sent the standard Imperial challenge. "Unknown vessel. You are in Imperial space. Identify yourself immediately or be destroyed." There was no response. "Sir, I'm detecting multiple scan beams hitting our ships," reported the sensor operator. "That vessel is analyzing our weapons, shields, and hull composition." The unknown ship completed its pass through the fleet and took position directly in front of Quan Ho's flagship. For a moment, it hung motionless in space, as if studying them. Quan Ho could feel the eyes of his crew upon him, waiting for orders. "Fire. A warning shot across their bow," he commanded. The weapons officer pressed his controls, and a beam of energy lanced out from the Subjugator's Pride. But by the time the beam reached the target area, the unknown ship was gone. "Where did it go?" Quan Ho demanded. "Sir, it just vanished," the sensor operator replied, confusion clear in his voice. One moment it was there, the next moment it wasn't. No hyperspace signature, no energy trail. It simply disappeared. Dong Min studied the sensor logs. Admiral, look at this. Just before it vanished, our sensors detected a massive energy spike. But it wasn't like any hyperspace jump we've ever seen. The power output was off the charts. Quan Ho felt uneasy. In 2,000 years, the Empire had encountered hundreds of alien species. They had seen every type of technology the galaxy had to offer. Nothing had ever surprised them like this. Could it have been some kind of advanced cloaking device? He asked. No, sir, the sensor operator replied. Our sensors would have detected the energy signature of a cloaking field. This was something else entirely. Hana spoke up from her station. Admiral, I've been analyzing the communication attempts. The ship received our transmission, but there was something odd about how it responded. What do you mean? Well, sir, it didn't respond with words or signals, but our computers detected that it sent back a data burst. Just a tiny one, lasting less than a second, almost like it was downloading our communication protocols. The bridge fell silent as everyone considered what this might mean. An unknown ship had appeared from nowhere, scanned their entire fleet, ignored their warnings, and then vanished, using technology they couldn't understand. Worst of all, it might have stolen information about Imperial communication systems. Sir, what are your orders? Dongmin asked quietly. Quan Ho stood straight and tried to project confidence he didn't feel. His crew was looking to him for leadership. They needed to believe that the Empire was still in control. Log the encounter and send a full report to Imperial Command, he ordered. Include all sensor data and the communication logs. Mark it as Priority Level 7. Priority Level 7 was reserved for encounters with unknown technology that might pose a threat to Imperial security. It had only been used 3 times in the past century. As his communications officer prepared the report, Quan Ho couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had just changed. For 2,000 years, the Empire had been the hunters, seeking out new worlds to conquer. But today, for the first time, he had felt like prey. The unknown ship had studied them with the casual confidence of a predator examining its next meal. It had shown no fear of Imperial power, no respect for Imperial authority. It had treated them like specimens in a laboratory. Admiral, Hana called out softly. I've been thinking about that data burst the ship sent back to us. What if it wasn't just downloading our communication protocols? What if it was also uploading something? Like what? I don't know, sir. But maybe we should run a full diagnostic on all our computer systems, just to be safe. Quan Ho nodded grimly. It was a good suggestion, but he feared it might already be too late. If the unknown ship had planted something in their systems, it might already be spreading through the Imperial communication network. As the subjugator's pride resumed its patrol route, Quan Ho stared out at the stars and wondered what other surprises might be waiting out there in the dark. The Empire had always believed itself to be the most advanced civilization in the galaxy. But today, that certainty had been shaken to its core. Somewhere in the vast emptiness of space, an unknown ship was carrying information about Imperial technology back to its masters. And Admiral Quan Ho had the sinking feeling that this was only the beginning. Captain Boram floated in the zero-gravity observation deck of the human colony ship New Sol. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see nothing but empty space and distant stars. That was exactly how they wanted it. Hidden in the void between star systems, The ship was invisible to any scanning technology the galaxy's major powers possessed. The new Sol was humanity's greatest achievement. It was both a colony ship and a mobile base, carrying 50,000 humans on their journey to find a new home among the stars. But first, they needed to understand what they were getting into. "Captain, Jin Woo is back from his reconnaissance mission," reported her second-in-command through the ship's communication system. Bo-Ram pushed off from the window and floated toward the nearest gravity lift. As she descended toward the briefing room, she felt the familiar pull of artificial gravity taking hold of her body. The human ship used rotating sections to create gravity, a simple but effective technology that most alien races had never developed. Jin Woo was waiting for her in the briefing room, still wearing his pilot suit. He looked tired but excited. As humanity's best scout pilot, he had been conducting secret reconnaissance missions throughout the galaxy for the past 6 months. "Report," Bo-Ram said as she took her seat at the head of the conference table. Jin Woo activated the holographic display in the center of the table. A 3-dimensional image of the Imperial fleet appeared, showing every detail of the massive warships. "The mission was a complete success, Captain. I was able to get close enough to conduct detailed scans of their entire fleet without being detected. Well, mostly without being detected." "What do you mean, mostly?" Jin Woo grinned. "They saw me, but only for a few seconds. I flew right through the middle of their formation before jumping to hyperspace. You should have seen the look on their faces." Bo-Ram frowned. "That was reckless, pilot. We're not ready for direct contact yet." "I know, Captain, but I couldn't resist. These Valthek Empire ships are impressive in size, but they're incredibly slow and clumsy. Their sensors are primitive compared to ours. If I hadn't wanted them to see me, they never would have." The briefing room door opened, and Chief Analyst Mi-sun entered, carrying a data tablet. She was followed by Engineer Woo Jin and Dr. Hyuni, the ship's xenobiologist. The 4 of them formed humanity's Strategic Planning Committee. "I've finished analyzing all the data Jin Woo collected," Mi-sun said as she took her seat. "The results are both encouraging and disturbing." The holographic display changed to show a map of the galaxy with different colored regions, marking various alien empires and territories. "The Valthek Empire controls over 10,000 star systems," Mi-sun continued. "They've been expanding for 2,000 years, conquering every species they encounter. Their military philosophy is based on overwhelming force and technological superiority." Woo Jin leaned forward to study the display. "What about their technology? How do we compare?" "That's the encouraging part," Mi-sun replied. "Their ships are large and heavily armed, but their technology is actually quite primitive. They use fusion reactors for power, simple laser and projectile weapons, and basic deflector shields. Their computers are slow and their AI systems are almost non-existent." Bo-Ram felt a surge of hope. Humanity had been forced to develop advanced technology during their long journey through space. Their ships used antimatter reactors, quantum processors, and adaptive AI systems that could think and learn. "What about their military tactics?" she asked. "That's where it gets interesting," Mi-sun said. "Every battle the Empire has fought follows the same pattern. They show up with massive fleets, park their ships in formation, and fire at the enemy until nothing is left. They've never had to develop sophisticated tactics because they've never faced an opponent who could match their firepower." Dr. Hyun-A spoke up from her position at the table. "I've been studying the psychological profiles of the various alien species we've encountered. The pattern is consistent across all of them. They think in terms of direct confrontation and territorial conquest. None of them have developed the kind of asymmetric warfare tactics that humans used throughout our history. Boram nodded thoughtfully. Humanity had spent thousands of years fighting wars against opponents who were larger, stronger, or better equipped. They had learned to win through cunning, deception, and superior strategy rather than brute force. "Show me their fleet compositions," she ordered. The display changed to show detailed schematics of Imperial warships. The vessels were enormous, some over 5 kilometers long with thick armor plating and hundreds of weapon systems. "These ships are built like flying fortresses," Wu Jin observed. "Maximum firepower, maximum protection, but they must be incredibly slow and difficult to maneuver." "Exactly," Mi-sun confirmed. "Our analysis shows that a typical Imperial battleship would need several minutes to change course or adjust its formation. Their reaction time in combat must be terrible." Jin Wu laughed. "I can confirm that. When I flew through their formation, it took them almost 30 seconds just to target me. By then I was already long gone." Boram studied the tactical information carefully. The Empire's strength was also their weakness. They had become so dependent on overwhelming force that they had never learned to adapt to unconventional tactics. "What about their command structure?" she asked. "Very rigid," Mi-sun replied. "Orders flow from the top down through a strict hierarchy. Individual ship captains have very little independence to make tactical decisions. Everything has to be approved by fleet commanders." This was valuable intelligence. Humanity's military doctrine emphasized individual initiative and adaptive thinking. Human ship captains were trained to make split-second decisions based on changing battlefield conditions. Dr. Hyun Ae activated another section of the display. "I've been studying their expansion patterns. The Empire has conquered over 300 different species in the past 2,000 years. In every case, they followed the same approach: show up with massive fleets and demand surrender. If the aliens refuse, they destroy their military forces and occupy their worlds." "Has anyone ever successfully resisted them?" Boram asked. "A few species have tried guerrilla warfare, but they lack the technology to make it effective. The Empire just hunts them down systematically until they're all dead or captured." Boram felt a cold anger building in her chest. The Valthek Empire was nothing more than a cosmic bully, using superior numbers and technology to crush weaker civilizations. They had turned conquest into an industrial process. "What's our current situation?" she asked Wu Jin. "We have 12 ships in our fleet, each one equipped with the most advanced technology humanity has ever built. Our stealth systems make us completely invisible to Imperial sensors. Our quantum communication systems allow instant coordination across vast distances, and our adaptive AI systems give us tactical advantages they can't even imagine." Boram stood up and walked to the viewing window. Outside, she could see the distant glow of star systems where billions of beings lived under Imperial rule. Some of them had been free once, before the Empire arrived with its massive fleets and ultimatums. "Captain," Mi-sun said quietly, "there's something else you should know. Our long-range sensors have detected human settlements in several systems along the Empire's expansion route. If they continue their current pattern of conquest, they'll reach our people within the next 10 years. Boram turned back to face her team. The decision was clear. Humanity couldn't hide in the void forever. They had the technology and the tactical knowledge to challenge the Empire's dominance. More importantly, they had a responsibility to protect the human colonies that were scattered throughout this region of space. "Begin Phase 2 of our reconnaissance operations," she ordered. I want detailed intelligence on Imperial fleet movements, communication protocols, and command structures. Map their supply lines and identify their key strategic assets." Jinwoo grinned eagerly. "Are we going to war, Captain?" Boram looked out at the stars again, thinking about all the civilizations that had fallen to Imperial conquest. "Not war, Jinwoo. Liberation. The galaxy has been under the Empire's boot for 2,000 years. I think it's time someone showed them that bigger isn't always better." As her team began planning their next phase of operations, Boram felt a familiar sensation. It was the same feeling human generals had experienced throughout history when they prepared to face a seemingly invincible enemy. The Empire thought they ruled the galaxy through superior strength. They were about to learn that humanity had spent millennia perfecting the art of making strength irrelevant. Supreme Commander Tae-young stood in the center of the Imperial Command Center on Valthek Prime, the Empire's capital world. Around him, dozens of holographic displays showed the positions of Imperial fleets throughout the galaxy. Red warning. Lights blinked on several of the displays, indicating areas where the mysterious ghost ships had been spotted. The reports had been coming in for weeks now. Unknown vessels appearing near Imperial outposts, conducting scans, and then vanishing without a trace. At first, Tae-young had dismissed them as equipment malfunctions or rebel propaganda. But the reports kept coming, and they were too consistent to ignore. "Show me the latest incident reports," he commanded. A young officer activated the central display, and a list of encounters appeared in glowing text. 27 separate incidents in the past month, spanning across 12 different sectors of Imperial space. The pattern was always the same. Small, fast ships appearing near Imperial installations, scanning everything in sight, and then disappearing using unknown technology. "Sir, we have Admiral Quan Ho's report from the Zerion system," the officer reported. "He encountered one of these vessels directly. His fleet was unable to engage it." Tae-young frowned as he read the detailed report. Quan Ho was one of his most experienced commanders. If he said the unknown ship had technology superior to anything in the Imperial arsenal, then the situation was more serious than anyone had realized. Imperial scientist Jun Ho entered the command center carrying a data tablet filled with analysis reports. He was the Empire's leading expert on alien technology, having studied the weapons and ships of hundreds of conquered species. "Supreme Commander, I've completed my analysis of the sensor data from all 27 encounters," Junho said as he approached the central console. "What are your conclusions?" Junho activated the holographic display, showing a three-dimensional representation of one of the unknown ships. These vessels use a form of stealth technology that is completely unlike anything we've encountered before. They don't use traditional cloaking fields or energy dampeners. Instead, they seem to bend space around themselves, making them effectively invisible to our sensors. Tae-young studied the image carefully. The ship was sleek and elegant, completely different from the massive angular designs favored by Imperial engineers. "What about their propulsion system?" "That's even more concerning, sir. The energy signatures suggest they're using some form of space-folding technology. They're not traveling through hyperspace in the conventional sense. They're actually manipulating the fabric of reality itself to move instantly from one location to another." The implications were staggering. If an enemy force had technology that advanced, they could strike anywhere in Imperial space without warning. No fleet could defend against an enemy that could appear and disappear at will. Intelligence Chief So-min joined them at the central console. She had been conducting her own investigation into the ghost ship sightings, focusing on patterns and potential motives. Supreme Commander, I believe we're dealing with a systematic intelligence-gathering operation, she reported. The unknown ships aren't attacking our installations or engaging our fleets. They're studying us. Studying us for what purpose? I believe they're preparing for war, sir. Every encounter has involved detailed scans of our ships, weapons, and defensive systems. Someone is building a comprehensive database of Imperial military capabilities. Tae-young felt a chill run down his spine. In 2,000 years of Imperial expansion, they had always been the ones doing the studying. They were the ones who appeared in alien star systems, analyzed the local defenses, and then returned with overwhelming force. Now, for the first time, someone was doing it to them. Do we have any idea who they are or where they come from? He asked. So-min shook her head. Nothing definitive, sir. The ships don't match any known design in our databases. The technology is unlike anything we've seen from any of the major galactic powers. Whoever they are, they're completely new players in this region of space. Emperor's advisor Nam-wook entered the command center with his usual air of arrogant confidence. He was a political appointee rather than a military officer, and he had never seen actual combat. In his view, the Empire's massive military made them invulnerable to any threat. Supreme Commander, I've been reviewing these reports, and I believe you're all overreacting, Nam-wook announced loudly. So what if some unknown species has developed advanced scouting technology? They're obviously afraid to engage our fleets directly, or they would have attacked by now. Tae-young bit back his first response. Nam-wook had the Emperor's ear, so he had to be handled diplomatically. Advisor, these ships have demonstrated capabilities that exceed our own technology. We should take this threat seriously. Threat? Nam-wook laughed dismissively. The Empire commands 50,000 warships. We control 10,000 star systems. What possible threat could a few scout ships pose to our power? Jun-ho stepped forward cautiously. Sir, with respect, their technology suggests they may be more advanced than us in several key areas. If they have superior weapons to match their superior stealth and propulsion systems, impossible, Nam-wook interrupted. The Empire has conquered hundreds of alien species. We've absorbed the best technology from every civilization we've encountered. No one could have developed capabilities that exceed ours without our knowledge. So-min tried a different approach. Advisor, even if their technology is only slightly better than ours, they have a significant tactical advantage. They can observe our forces without being detected, while we can't track their movements or predict their actions. Nam-wook waved his hand dismissively. You're all thinking like merchants instead of warriors. When has the Empire ever been defeated by superior technology? We win battles through overwhelming force and unshakable determination. If these mysterious aliens want a fight, we'll give them one they'll never forget. Tae-young exchanged glances with his scientific and intelligence advisors. They all understood the danger, but Nam-wook's political influence made it difficult to take appropriate action. What are your orders, Supreme Commander? So-min asked quietly. Tae-young considered his options carefully. He couldn't ignore the threat, but he also couldn't afford to appear weak in front of the Emperor's advisor. Double the patrol schedules in all sectors where ghost ship sightings have been reported, he ordered. Install new sensor arrays at our most important installations. I want early warning systems that can detect any form of advanced stealth technology. Sir, what about increasing our alert status? Jun-ho asked. Before Tae-young could respond, Nam-wook spoke up again. Absolutely not. Raising the alert status would suggest that we're afraid of these unknown ships. It would make the Empire look weak in front of our subject species. Tae-young felt his frustration growing, but he kept his voice level. Advisor, taking reasonable precautions is not the same as showing fear. The Emperor has given me specific instructions, Namwook replied coldly. We are to continue with normal operations while maintaining standard patrol levels. Any deviation from this policy must be approved personally by the Emperor himself. The command center fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Namwook was essentially forbidding them from taking defensive measures against an unknown threat with superior technology. As Namwook left the command center, Tae-young turned back to his advisors. Continue monitoring the situation, he ordered quietly. Document every encounter and analyze all available data. If these unknown ships escalate their activities, I want to be ready to present a complete briefing to the Emperor. So-min nodded grimly. Sir, there's one more thing you should know. Our communication networks have been experiencing unusual glitches lately. Brief interruptions, minor data losses, nothing major. But the timing correlates with the ghost ship sightings. What are you suggesting? I think they may have infiltrated our communication systems, sir. If they're as advanced as their technology suggests, they might be monitoring our fleet communications in real time. The implications were terrifying. If the unknown enemy could intercept Imperial communications, they would know the position and status of every ship in the fleet. They would be able to predict Imperial movements and avoid any traps or ambushes. Tae-young looked around the command center at all the displays showing Imperial fleet positions. If the enemy really could monitor their communications, then all of this information was already in hostile hands. For the first time in his long military career, Supreme Commander Tae-young felt like he was fighting a war while blindfolded. The enemy could see everything he was doing, while he could see nothing of their plans or capabilities. The Empire had built its power on being the hunters, always knowing more about their enemies than their enemies knew about them. Now the roles were reversed, and Tae-young wasn't sure the Empire was prepared to be the prey. Admiral Seung-ho floated in the center of the New Seoul's tactical planning room, surrounded by holographic displays showing Imperial fleet positions throughout the galaxy. 3 months of intensive reconnaissance had given humanity a complete picture of the Empire's military capabilities, and the results were both encouraging and sobering. The human fleet consisted of only 12 ships, each one built using humanity's most advanced technology. Unlike the massive Imperial vessels that relied on thick armor and overwhelming firepower, human ships were designed for speed, stealth, and precision strikes. They were the wolves compared to the Empire's lumbering elephants. Admiral, all ships are in position, reported navigation specialist Ji-hoon from his station. We have vessels positioned near 50 different Imperial fleets across 6 sectors of space. Seung-ho nodded as he studied the tactical display. Each red dot represented an Imperial fleet containing hundreds of warships. Each blue dot represented a single human ship invisible to Imperial sensors and ready to deliver humanity's ultimatum. Communications, what's the status of our quantum encryption systems? He asked. Communications specialist Yun-ji looked up from her console. All systems are operating at maximum efficiency, Admiral. The message we're about to deliver is encrypted using quantum entanglement principles. Even if the Empire captures the transmission, it would take their computers several decades to decode it. The message itself had been carefully crafted by the Colonial Council. It wasn't a request for negotiation or a declaration of war. It was an ultimatum designed to demonstrate humanity's technological superiority while giving the Empire a chance to avoid total destruction. Pilot Yujin entered the planning room wearing her flight suit. She had volunteered for the most dangerous mission in the operation, delivering the ultimatum directly to Admiral Quan Ho's fleet, the same force that had first encountered human technology months earlier. "Are you ready for this, Yujin?" Sung Ho asked. She grinned confidently. "Admiral, I've been flying circles around Imperial ships for 3 months. This will be the first time they'll actually know I'm there." The plan was audacious in its simplicity. At exactly 1427 Galactic Standard Time, 50 human ships would simultaneously decloak near Imperial fleets throughout the galaxy. They would transmit the ultimatum, remain visible long enough for the Empire to understand they were completely helpless, and then vanish again into hyperspace. "Admiral, we're receiving final confirmations from all ships," Ji-hoon reported. "Everyone is in position and ready to execute." Sung Ho looked around the room at his team of specialists. These 12 ships represented humanity's entire military force in this region of space. They were outnumbered by the Empire by a ratio of more than 4,000 to 1. But numbers didn't tell the whole story. "Yunji, show me the message one more time," he requested. The holographic display changed to show the text of humanity's ultimatum. It began with detailed technical specifications of Imperial ships, including information that should have been classified at the highest levels. The message proved that humanity had been observing the Empire for months and had infiltrated their most secure systems. "This is the Human Colonial Alliance," the message began. "Your empire has been observed, catalogued, and found wanting. For 2,000 years, you have spread across the galaxy like a plague, conquering peaceful civilizations and enslaving entire species. This ends now." The ultimatum went on to list specific star systems that the Empire must evacuate within 30 standard days. These were systems containing human colonies or species that had requested human protection. The message made it clear that non-compliance would result in the complete destruction of Imperial forces. But the most important part of the message was what it revealed about human capabilities. The transmission included detailed scans of every Imperial ship in the targeted fleets, down to the serial numbers of individual weapon systems. It demonstrated that human sensors could penetrate Imperial shields and armor as if they didn't exist. "The psychological impact should be devastating," observed Dr. Hyun-ae, who had joined them to analyze the expected Imperial response. "They've never encountered an enemy who knew more about their own forces than they did." Sung Ho understood the importance of the psychological warfare aspect. The Empire had built its power on the appearance of invincibility. When that illusion was shattered, their entire command structure would be thrown into chaos. "Admiral, we're at T-minus 60 seconds. Ji-hoon announced. Sung Ho activated the fleet-wide communication system. "All ships, this is Admiral Sung Ho. Today we announce humanity's presence to the galaxy. For too long, the Valthek Empire has ruled through fear and violence. Today, we show them that their reign of terror is ending." He paused, thinking about all the species that had been crushed under Imperial conquest. "Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every civilization that has suffered under Imperial rule. We're fighting for the principle that might does not make right." T-minus 30 seconds, Ji-hoon called out, "Yu-jin," activated her ship systems, and prepared for the most important flight of her life. Her target was Admiral Quan Ho's flagship, the massive subjugator's pride. she would decloak directly between the flagship and its escort vessels, a position that should be impossible for any ship to reach undetected. T-minus 10 seconds. Seung-ho felt his heart rate increase as the moment of contact approached. Once this message was delivered, there would be no turning back. Humanity would have announced itself as the Empire's enemy, and the most powerful military force in the galaxy would turn its attention to destroying them. Execute, he commanded. Across 6 sectors of Imperial space, 50 human ships simultaneously dropped their stealth fields and appeared on Imperial sensors. The effect was immediate and devastating. Imperial fleets that had been conducting routine patrols suddenly found unknown vessels in their midst, ships that had somehow penetrated their defensive formations without being detected. Yujin's ship materialized directly in front of Admiral Quan Ho's flagship, close enough that the Imperial crew could see its sleek hull through their viewing windows. Before the Imperial weapons could target her, she began transmitting the ultimatum. The message was broadcast on all Imperial frequencies simultaneously. Every ship in every targeted fleet received the same transmission at exactly the same moment, proving that humanity had the capability to coordinate operations across vast distances instantaneously. Admiral, we're receiving panicked communications from all 50 Imperial fleets, Yunji reported with satisfaction. Their command structure is in complete chaos. The beautiful simplicity of the plan was now evident. By appearing simultaneously near 50 different fleets, humanity had demonstrated that they could strike anywhere in Imperial space at will. The Empire's massive size, which had always been their greatest strength, had suddenly become a liability. They had too many assets to protect and no way to predict where humanity might strike next. Yujin held her position for exactly 30 seconds, allowing the Imperial sensors to record detailed scans of her ship. Then she engaged her hyperspace drive and vanished, leaving the Imperial fleet staring at empty space. All ships report successful transmission and withdrawal, Ji-hoon announced. No casualties, no detection of our actual fleet positions. Seung-ho allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The first phase of humanity's campaign was complete. The Empire now knew they were facing an enemy with superior technology and tactical capabilities. More importantly, they knew they were being hunted by an enemy they couldn't track or predict. What do you think their response will be? Yunji asked. Dr. Hyune spoke up from her position at the analysis station. Based on their historical patterns, they'll mobilize their entire military and attempt to crush us through overwhelming force. They've never had to develop sophisticated strategies because they've never faced a technologically superior opponent. That's exactly what we're counting on, Seung-ho replied. Let them gather their massive fleets and search for us. While they're stumbling around looking for battles, we'll be systematically dismantling their entire infrastructure. The holographic display showed Imperial fleet movements as they began responding to the ultimatum. Ships were breaking off from routine patrols and moving toward the systems mentioned in humanity's message. The Empire was doing exactly what the humans had predicted, concentrating their forces for a massive conventional battle. Admiral, message from Captain Boram, communications reported. She's authorizing Phase 3 of our operational plan. Phase 3 was the most dangerous part of their strategy. While the Empire was gathering its fleets for a decisive battle, human ships would infiltrate Imperial space and begin targeting their supply lines, communication networks, and command centers. It was a classic example of asymmetric warfare, avoiding the enemy's strength while attacking their weaknesses. Confirm receipt of Captain Boram's authorization, Seung-ho ordered. All ships are to begin Phase 3 operations immediately. As his tactical team began coordinating the next phase of their campaign, Sung-ho looked out at the stars and thought about the message they had just delivered. The Empire had 30 days to comply with humanity's demands. He doubted they would take the offer seriously. Fleet Commander Min-ho was reviewing routine patrol reports in his private quarters aboard the Imperial battleship Eternal Dominance when the alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Emergency lights bathed the corridors in red as the crew rushed to battle stations. Min-ho grabbed his uniform jacket and ran toward the bridge. As commander of the 7th Battle Group, he was responsible for defending one of the most important sectors in Imperial space. His fleet consisted of 237 warships, including some of the most powerful vessels in the Imperial Navy. "Report!" he shouted as he burst onto the bridge. "Sir, unknown vessel has appeared directly in our formation," his tactical officer replied, his voice tight with shock. "It materialized between our flagship and the escort ships." Min-ho stared at the main display in disbelief. A sleek, dark ship hung motionless in space barely a kilometer away from his bridge. It was impossible. No ship could penetrate his fleet's defensive formation without being detected by dozens of sensor arrays. "How did it get there?" he demanded. "Unknown, sir. One moment our sensors showed empty space, the next moment it was just there. The unknown ship was unlike anything in the Imperial database. It was small compared to Imperial vessels, probably no more than 300 meters long, but its design was elegant and purposeful. There were no visible weapons ports or engine outlets, just smooth curves that seemed to bend light around them. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the unknown vessel," the communications officer reported. On screen, the main display changed to show a human face. Min-ho had never seen anything like it before. The alien had smooth skin, small eyes, and strange facial features that seemed almost familiar, yet completely foreign. "This is Commander Da-Yoon of the Human Colonial Alliance," the figure said in perfect Imperial Standard language. "Your empire has been observed, catalogued, and found wanting." Min-ho felt a chill run down his spine. The alien's voice was calm and confident, showing no fear of the massive Imperial fleet surrounding her ship. The transmission continued with information that made Min-ho's blood run cold. The human commander began reciting detailed specifications of his ships, including classified technical data that should have been known only to Imperial engineers. "Your flagship, the Eternal Dominance, carries 147 heavy plasma cannons, 86 missile launchers, and defensive shields rated at 4.7 terawatts, Da-Yoon said casually. "Your escort vessel Iron Fist has a hull breach in Section 12 that your crew believes they repaired last month, but our scans show the molecular bonding is still compromised." Min-ho's tactical officer checked his records quickly. "Sir, she's right about everything. The Iron Fist did have a hull breach in Section 12, and the repair work was completed 3 weeks ago." The human commander's image leaned forward slightly. "For 2,000 years, your empire has spread across the galaxy like a plague, conquering peaceful civilizations and enslaving entire species. You have destroyed countless worlds and murdered billions of innocent beings. This ends now." The ultimatum that followed was simple and direct. The Empire had 30 standard days to withdraw from specific star systems. Any Imperial forces remaining in those areas after the deadline would be destroyed without further warning. "This is your only warning," Da-Yoon concluded. "Do not mistake our mercy for weakness. We have studied your empire thoroughly. We know your capabilities, your weaknesses, and your tactics. You know nothing about us. Remember that fact when you choose how to respond." The transmission ended, and the human ship began to turn away from the Imperial fleet. Min-ho realized this might be his only chance to capture or destroy the mysterious vessel. "All ships, target that vessel immediately," he commanded. "Fire everything we have." 237 Imperial warships opened fire simultaneously. Thousands of energy beams and missiles converged on the location where the human ship had been floating just moments before. But the ship was no longer there. "Where did it go?" Minho shouted. "Sir, it just vanished," the sensor operator replied weakly. "No hyperspace signature, no energy trail. One moment it was there. The next moment it was gone." Minho stared at the empty space where the human ship had been. In all his years of Imperial service, he had never encountered technology that advanced. The humans had appeared in the middle of his formation, delivered their message with casual confidence, and then disappeared without a trace. "Sir, we're receiving priority communications from Imperial Command," the communications officer reported. "Similar encounters are being reported across 6 different sectors." The implications hit Minho like a physical blow. The humans hadn't just contacted his fleet. They had simultaneously appeared near Imperial forces throughout the galaxy, delivering the same ultimatum to dozens of different commanders. "Get me a direct line to Supreme Command," Minho ordered. While his communications officer established the connection, Minho reviewed the tactical data from the encounter. The human ship had appeared exactly in the center of his formation, in a position that should have been impossible to reach undetected. It had demonstrated detailed knowledge of Imperial ship specifications and fleet positions. Most disturbing of all, it had vanished using technology that Imperial scientists couldn't even begin to understand. "Sir, Supreme Commander Tae Young is on the secure channel," the communications officer announced. The main screen showed the familiar face of the Empire's supreme military commander, but Tae Young looked shaken and worried. In the background, Minho could see the controlled chaos of the Imperial Command Center as staff officers rushed between stations. "Minho, I need your complete report on the contact with the unknown vessel," Tae Young said without preamble. "Sir, they know everything about our ships and fleet positions." The human commander recited classified technical specifications that should be impossible for anyone outside Imperial military engineering to access. "Human?" Tae Young leaned forward with interest. "They identified themselves as human?" "Yes, sir. Human Colonial Alliance. The commander was designated Daun. Sir, how many other fleets have reported similar contact?" 53 separate incidents across 6 sectors, all occurring at exactly the same time. Every fleet commander is reporting identical experiences. Unknown ships appearing in impossible positions, delivering ultimatums, and then vanishing using undetectable technology. Minho felt overwhelmed by the magnitude of what this meant. An unknown species had demonstrated the ability to strike anywhere in Imperial space simultaneously. They had superior stealth technology, superior propulsion systems, and detailed intelligence on Imperial military capabilities. "Sir, what are our orders?" Tae Young was silent for several seconds before responding. "Continue normal patrol operations while we assess the situation. Do not engage any unknown vessels unless they pose an immediate threat to Imperial installations." "Sir, with respect, these humans have already demonstrated that they can appear anywhere in our territory at will. How do we defend against an enemy we can't detect or track?" "That's being discussed at the highest levels of command," Tae Young replied grimly. "For now, maintain your current patrol routes and report any further contact immediately." The communication ended, leaving Minho alone with his thoughts and his deeply shaken crew. He looked around the bridge at his officers, seeing his own concerns reflected in their faces. "Sir, What do we do if they come back? His tactical officer asked quietly. Minho considered the question carefully. The humans had made it clear that this was a warning, not an attack. They could have destroyed his entire fleet if they had wanted to. Instead, they had chosen to demonstrate their superiority and offer the Empire a chance to comply with their demands. "We follow orders and continue our patrol," he said finally. "But I want all sensor arrays operating at maximum sensitivity. If anything unusual appears on our scopes, I want to know about it immediately." As his crew returned to their stations, Minho stood at the main viewing window and stared out at the stars. Somewhere out there, an unknown number of human ships were moving through Imperial space with complete invisibility. They were watching Imperial fleets, monitoring Imperial communications, and preparing for whatever came next. For the first time in his military career, Fleet Commander Minho felt like prey instead of predator. The Empire's massive fleets, which had always been symbols of invincible power, suddenly seemed clumsy and vulnerable. The humans had delivered their ultimatum with calm confidence, showing no fear of Imperial retaliation. They knew something that the Empire didn't know, and Minho suspected that Imperial commanders were about to learn some very unpleasant lessons about the true nature of power in the galaxy. 30 days. The Empire had 30 days to decide whether to comply with human demands or face the consequences of refusing. Minho had a sinking feeling that his superiors would choose war and that the Imperial forces were completely unprepared for what was coming. Grand Admiral Kyung-Soo stood before the massive holographic display in the Imperial War Room, studying the three-dimensional map of the galaxy with growing anger. Red markers indicated the 53 Imperial fleets that had been contacted by human ships. The pattern showed that the aliens had infiltrated every major sector of Imperial space simultaneously. "This is an act of war," he declared to the assembled military commanders and government officials. "These humans have violated Imperial sovereignty and threatened our fleets. We must respond with overwhelming force." War Minister Chang Min nodded enthusiastically from his position at the conference table. He was a political appointee who had never seen actual combat, but he understood the importance of maintaining Imperial prestige. "Grand Admiral, I agree completely," Chang Min said. "The Empire cannot allow this insult to go unpunished. If we appear weak in the face of alien threats, our subject species might begin to think rebellion is possible." Intelligence Director Su Young cleared her throat politely. She had spent the past week analyzing every scrap of data from the human encounters, and her conclusions were deeply disturbing. "Sir, I believe we need to consider the possibility that we're dealing with an enemy that possesses technology superior to our own," she said carefully. Kyung-Soo turned to face her with obvious irritation. "Director, the Empire has conquered hundreds of alien species over 2,000 years. We have absorbed the best technology from every civilization we've encountered. No one in this galaxy possesses capabilities that exceed our own. Sir, the evidence suggests otherwise. These human ships demonstrated stealth capabilities that make them completely invisible to our sensor networks. They appeared in the middle of our defensive formations without being detected. They transmitted detailed intelligence about our ships that should have been impossible for them to obtain." Emperor's advisor Namwook stood up from his chair at the head of the table. As the Emperor's personal representative, his word carried ultimate authority in all military matters. "Director Su Young, you're forgetting the fundamental principle of Imperial strategy," Namwook said condescendingly. "Superior technology is meaningless in the face of superior numbers. These humans have perhaps a few dozen ships at most. We command 50,000 warships. Fleet Admiral Jong-sik, one of the Empire's most experienced combat commanders, spoke up from his position near the tactical display. Advisor. The humans demonstrated the ability to coordinate simultaneous operations across 6 sectors of space. That suggests they have communication technology that exceeds our own capabilities. Namwook waved his hand dismissively. Admiral, you're being overly cautious. Even if these humans have advanced communication systems, what difference does it make? We'll simply gather our fleets and crush them through overwhelming firepower. Su Young tried once more to make her concerns heard. Sir, there's another factor we need to consider. Our communication networks have been experiencing unusual disruptions for months. Minor glitches, brief interruptions, nothing that seemed significant at the time. But the timing correlates perfectly with the ghost ship sightings. What are you suggesting? Kyung-soo asked. I believe the humans have infiltrated our communication systems, sir. They may be monitoring our fleet movements and tactical communications in real time. The war room fell silent as everyone considered the implications. If the humans could intercept Imperial communications, they would know the position and status of every ship in the fleet. They would be able to predict Imperial movements and avoid any traps or ambushes. Namwook broke the silence with a harsh laugh. Director, you're allowing your imagination to run wild. Even if these aliens have some form of advanced surveillance technology, it doesn't change the basic mathematics of the situation. 50,000 Imperial ships versus perhaps 50 human ships. The outcome is inevitable. Changmin nodded in agreement. The advisor is correct. We're overthinking this situation. The humans made a strategic mistake by revealing themselves. To us. Now we know they exist, and we can hunt them down systematically. Kyung-soo walked to the central holographic display and activated the fleet status indicators. Thousands of blue dots appeared throughout the galaxy, each one representing an Imperial warship. I want every available ship mobilized for Operation Total Victory, he announced. We'll gather the largest fleet in Imperial history and sweep every system mentioned in the human ultimatum. When we find their base of operations, we'll destroy them completely. Jong-sik studied the tactical display with concern. Sir, mobilizing our entire fleet will leave many sectors undefended. If the humans can strike anywhere at will, they might target our supply lines or communication centers while our main force is concentrated. That's exactly what we want them to do, Namwook replied smugly. Let them attack our installations. It will give us opportunities to track them back to their hiding places. Su Young made one final attempt to warn them about the dangers they were facing. Sir, I've been analyzing the human ultimatum in detail. The message included technical specifications for our ships that are classified at the highest levels. They know the exact capabilities of our weapons, shields, and propulsion systems. They've been studying us for months, possibly years. Director, you keep focusing on what these aliens know about us, Kyung-soo said impatiently. What you should be asking is what we know about them. And the answer is nothing. They've revealed the existence of their species and made themselves targets for Imperial retaliation. That was a fatal mistake. Changmin activated a section of the holographic display showing Imperial shipyard facilities. Grand Admiral, our production capacity allows us to replace any losses within weeks. Even if these humans destroy entire fleets, we can simply build more ships faster than they can destroy them. The logic seemed sound to everyone except Su Young. The Empire had indeed built its power on overwhelming numerical superiority. They had crushed every enemy through sheer force of numbers, replacing losses faster than their opponents could inflict them. How long will it take to mobilize the fleet? Namwook asked. Jong-sik consulted his tactical computer. 72 hours to gather the main battle groups, sir. We'll have 40,000 ships ready for operation within a week. Excellent. I want this human threat eliminated before it can spread panic among our subject species. As the military commanders began planning the largest fleet mobilization in Imperial history, Su Yung reviewed her intelligence files once more. Everything about the human contact suggested they were dealing with an enemy unlike any the Empire had faced before. The humans had demonstrated superior stealth technology, superior propulsion systems, and detailed knowledge of Imperial capabilities. They had coordinated simultaneous operations across vast distances with perfect timing. Most importantly, they had shown no fear of Imperial power despite being vastly outnumbered. In her experience, only two types of enemies displayed that level of confidence: those who were completely insane, or those who possessed capabilities that the Empire couldn't imagine. The human ultimatum had been calm, rational, and precisely targeted. These were not the actions of madmen. Tactical Specialist. In-Ho entered the war room carrying a data tablet filled with communication intercepts. He was one of Su Yung's most reliable analysts, and his expression was deeply worried. Director, I've been monitoring Imperial Fleet communications since the human contact, he reported quietly. There have been several unusual anomalies in our quantum communication network. What kind of anomalies? Brief signal echoes, minor timing delays, nothing that would normally be considered significant. But the pattern suggests that someone is intercepting our transmissions and retransmitting them with slight modifications. Su Yung felt a chill run down her spine. If the humans really had infiltrated the Imperial communication network, they would know about Operation Total Victory before it even began. They would know the exact composition of the Imperial fleet, their planned routes, and their tactical objectives. She looked around the war room at the confident faces of Imperial commanders and political officials. They were planning to fight the most technologically advanced enemy the Empire had ever encountered, using tactics that were 2,000 years old. As the meeting broke up and the commanders dispersed to prepare their fleets, Su Yung remained behind to study the intelligence data once more. The humans had given the Empire 30 days to comply with their demands. She suspected that the Imperial leadership would spend those 30 days gathering their massive fleets for a decisive battle. What worried her most was the possibility that the humans were counting on exactly that response. If they really had been studying the Empire for months, they would know that Imperial strategy always relied on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. The Empire was about to commit its entire military to a battle against an enemy they didn't understand, using tactics that the enemy had already observed and analyzed. Su Yung had the terrible feeling that they were walking into the most sophisticated trap in galactic history. The emergency session of the Imperial High Council convened in the deepest bunker beneath the capital city on Valtech Prime. Emperor's science advisor, Jun Seo, stood before the holographic display showing the catastrophic losses from the Battle of Kepler, his face pale with shock and disbelief. "The fleet casualties are confirmed," he reported to the assembled council members. 15,000 ships destroyed, 8,000 more severely damaged. Admiral Kyung-Su's remaining forces are scattered across 6 sectors, many of them requesting immediate evacuation from Imperial space. Supreme Commander Tae-Young sat at the council table, staring at reports that described the complete failure of Imperial military doctrine. In a single battle, humanity had destroyed nearly half of the Empire's total naval strength using weapons and tactics that Imperial scientists couldn't even begin to understand. "How is this possible?" demanded War Minister Chang Min. "Our intelligence, indicated the humans had fewer than 50 ships. How did they deploy hundreds of vessels without our knowledge? Junseo activated another section of the display, showing analysis of the battle recordings. Minister, our technical analysis suggests that many of the human ships we observed were holographic projections. They used advanced illusion technology to make their small fleet appear much larger than it actually was. You're telling me we were defeated by fake ships? Chang Min's voice was shrill with disbelief. No, sir. We were defeated by superior technology, superior tactics, and superior intelligence. The holographic projections were just one element of a comprehensive strategy, designed to exploit every weakness in our military doctrine. Intelligence Director Su Young spoke up from her position at the far end of the table. She had spent days analyzing communication intercepts and battle data, and her conclusions were deeply disturbing. Council members, I believe the humans have been planning this campaign for months, possibly years. They infiltrated our communication systems, studied our tactical responses, and identified all of our strategic vulnerabilities. When they finally chose to engage our fleet, they knew exactly how we would respond. Emperor's advisor Nam Wook, who had been notably quiet since news of the defeat reached the capital, finally spoke. Director, are you suggesting that these humans are more intelligent than Imperial strategists? I'm suggesting that they think differently than we do, sir. Imperial doctrine has always been based on overwhelming force and direct confrontation. We show up with massive fleets and demand surrender because that approach has worked for 2,000 years. The humans don't fight that way. Tae Young looked up from his reports with weary eyes. How do they fight? Like they're always outnumbered, sir. They use deception, misdirection, and adaptive tactics. They avoid our strengths while exploiting our weaknesses. Most importantly, they prepared for this war by studying us for months while remaining completely invisible to our intelligence services. The council chamber fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. The Empire had built its power on being the hunters, always knowing more about their enemies than their enemies knew about them. Now the roles were completely reversed. Governor Yu Jin of the Altair system appeared on the communications screen, her face tight with worry. She was one of dozens of planetary governors who had been monitoring the emergency session. Council. Members, I'm receiving reports that human ships have appeared in my system. They're not attacking, but they're broadcasting messages to my population. They're offering protection to any world that declares independence from the Empire. Similar reports began flooding in from across the galaxy. Human vessels were appearing near Imperial installations throughout known space, not as conquerors, but as liberators. They were offering former Imperial subjects a choice: independence under human protection or continued allegiance to a defeated empire. How many worlds have accepted their offer? Nam Wook asked quietly. 47 systems in the past 6 hours, Yujin replied. The number is growing rapidly as news of the battle spreads. Junseo activated a galactic map showing the rapid collapse of Imperial authority. Red markers indicated worlds declaring independence, while blue markers showed systems that remained loyal to the Empire. The red markers were spreading like fire across the galaxy. Council members, Su Young said quietly, we need to face the reality of our situation. The Empire is finished as a military power. Our fleet has been shattered. Our subject species are rebelling, and we're facing an enemy with technology we can't match. Chang Min slammed his hand on the table in frustration. There has to be something we can do. The Empire has ruled this galaxy for 2,000 years. Minister, the humans have demonstrated that our rule was based on illusion rather than real strength, Junseo replied. We controlled the galaxy because no one had the technology to challenge us effectively. Now someone does, and our entire power structure is collapsing. The communication screen activated again, showing the face of Fleet Admiral Jong Sik broadcasting from his damaged flagship. His uniform was torn, and his face was streaked with soot from internal fires. Supreme Command, this is Jong Sik reporting from the Outer Rim. My remaining ships are being approached by human vessels. They're not attacking us. They're requesting permission to provide medical assistance to our wounded. The offer of humanitarian aid from the enemy was perhaps the most humiliating development yet. The humans were treating Imperial forces like victims of a natural disaster rather than military opponents. "What are your orders, Admiral?" Tae-young asked. "Sir, I don't think we have any choice. We have thousands of wounded crew members and limited medical facilities. The humans are offering to help save Imperial lives." Nam-wook stood up from his chair, his face red with anger and embarrassment. "This is intolerable. The Empire doesn't accept charity from alien species." "Advisor," Jong Sik replied quietly, "the Empire doesn't exist anymore. I'm looking at the debris of 1,000 Imperial warships. Our crews are dying, and the humans are offering to save them. I'm going to accept their help." The transmission ended, leaving the council chamber in stunned silence. The Empire's most senior military commander had just acknowledged that Imperial power was finished. Tae-young stood up slowly and walked to the holographic display showing the continuing collapse of Imperial authority. More red markers were appearing every minute as worlds declared their independence. "Council members, I believe we need to contact the humans directly. We need to discuss terms for ending this conflict before more lives are lost." "Terms?" Nam-wook's voice was barely controlled. "The Empire doesn't negotiate with rebels and terrorists." "Advisor, these humans aren't rebels or terrorists," Su-young replied firmly. "They're the new dominant power in this galaxy. We can either deal with that reality or watch the Empire tear itself apart in futile resistance." Captain Bo-ram's image appeared on the communication screen, broadcasting from the human flagship New Seoul. Her expression was calm but firm, showing none of the triumphant arrogance that Imperial commanders would have displayed after such a decisive victory. "Members of the Imperial High Council," she said in perfect Imperial standard, "I am Captain Bo-ram of the Human Colonial Alliance. I understand you wish to discuss the current situation." Tae-young stepped forward to address the human commander. "Captain, we are prepared to negotiate terms for ending hostilities between our species." "Supreme Commander, there are no hostilities to end," Bo-ram replied. "Humanity never declared war on the Empire. We simply announced that Imperial expansion would no longer be tolerated in this region of space. Your government chose to respond with military force." "You destroyed 15,000 of our ships," Changmin interrupted angrily. "Minister, we defended ourselves when attacked by your fleet. Every Imperial crew member who survived the battle was offered medical assistance. Every Imperial world that has requested protection has received it. We take no pleasure in destruction or conquest." Nam-wook leaned forward in his chair. "What do you want from us?" Bo-ram's expression remained unchanged. "Nothing, advisor. Humanity has no interest in ruling the Empire or conquering Imperial worlds. We want freedom for the species you've enslaved, protection for the worlds you've threatened, and an end to Imperial expansion." "And if we refuse?" Nam-wook challenged. "Then you refuse," Bo-ram replied simply. "Imperial worlds that wish to remain part of your empire are free to do so. Imperial fleets that wish to continue patrolling Imperial space may do so. But any attempt to conquer new worlds or threaten species under human protection will be met with the same response you experienced at Kepler. Jun Seo studied the human captain carefully. Captain Boram, your technology is clearly superior to ours. You could have destroyed our entire fleet at Kepler, but you allowed most of our ships to escape. Why? Because destruction was never our goal, advisor. We wanted to demonstrate that Imperial military power could be neutralized, not annihilated. Every Imperial crew member who died at Kepler was someone's family, someone's friend. We regret those losses, even though they were necessary to end a much larger conflict. The council chamber fell silent as the members absorbed this response. The humans were treating Imperial forces with more respect than the Empire had ever shown to its conquered enemies.